When my mother was 27, my youngest sibling was born. I have lived my life totally disinterested in marriage or children before 30. But first, I said I've got to make it to 28, unmarried and childless, because my mother was turning 28 the year my youngest sibling was born. So I thought she was born at 28. However, I recently realized that her 28th birthday had not yet passed. So I went to my calculator app and calculated. I also went to an online how long since calculator, then added her birthday and my youngest sibling's birthday. I am 27. I'm unmarried and childless. I then realized that I had broken a generational curse. It's a generational curse because no single woman on my maternal side made it to 27 without at least one child, and only one had one child before 27. Astrologically, making permanent life decisions before your Saturn return is a formula for a much more difficult future. Your Saturn return is between age 27 and 30. It is a significant event in your life because you get to go through things that weigh your self-love, how you treat others, and how responsible you are. How you deal with your Saturn return determines other life events to come. This period is not gloom and doom. A number of people tend to have wonderful things happening to them. However, as at where I currently stand, I still don't see me changing my mind on marriage or children even after 30. I have been so at peace and loving the freedom I have that I never had prior to breaking free from my family of origin. I have also educated myself on what marriage or parenting really is. So if I end up old and lonely because I decided not to get married or have offspring, oh well. That's better than regretting my marriage or having offspring. No, an awful partner has nothing to do with not choosing better. Another thing, education-wise, my sisters and I are the most educated women on our maternal side. Yes, some older relatives are educated, but they only got the education way later in life, and it still really doesn't count. Harsh as it sounds, it really doesn't count, and you have got to be around them to know what I mean. A third thing, my elder sister and I are the only financially independent women. Some would dispute this, but at our age, all the women on my maternal side were heavily dependent on men and even way after 30. Most of them still are not financially independent. Men are the center of the lives of the women on the maternal side of my family. I'm proud to say that my sisters and I have broken generational curses that the women before us were unable to see or break. I find them to still be unaware of their generational curses. The three things we have accomplished are things that have derailed the lives of the women on my maternal side. If they waited longer to have a child, they would understand the men they were engaging with. They would get to know themselves much better. If they took their education seriously, they would have known more than they do now, because knowledge is power, and without it, you are powerless. When you are powerless, you're an easy target, and when you are an easy target, anything can happen to you. If they understood the energy of money, they would have never sabotaged the opportunities to be financially independent. They would have never depended on a man who took advantage of them being powerless. They would have never let themselves get taken advantage of by a man who recognized their lack of self-awareness. When I found this out, the three curses broken, I felt different, free, and lighter. I wondered, now that I've accomplished all of this, what next? I had to call my elder sister and tell her the news. She was so happy, and she said she didn't even realize that she's broken any generational curse. I come from a heavily dysfunctional family, on both sides. Breaking free was not easy, and sometimes you don't realize you're free. That's something I told my sister when she was digesting the information. That's something I'm also telling younger me, who did not know that she's not incapacitated in her family of origin, that she can live, she's free. You know, like the slaves, they did not know they were free until they were told. However, our ancestors were always free. They just didn't know that they could resist slavery. Yes, there were consequences for resisting, but they were always free. My mother, I call her the woman on my birth certificate because I don't get along with her. She took so long to leave that abusive relationship with the man on my birth certificate. I don't have a good relationship with him. I'm well aware of how distasteful my choice of reference is to what the general public will refer to as parents. However, nobody wakes up and recalls the titles parent, father, or mother without knowing the definition of those words and seeing an incongruence with the people in their birth certificate. I've been betrayed and all because of my lack of recognition. So my question has always been, if I was in a relationship with someone doing all the things they have done to me, they have put me through, would you tell me to stay and accept said partner? It's always silence and a no that has to be pulled out of people's mouths. My follow-up question is, so why are you asking me to stay and accept these people and give them titles they never lived up to? That usually ends the conversation, but there's always that spineless person who brings up extreme situations and says, at least they did not do this or the other. A therapist once told me that I deserved to be abused. I quit therapy then. So when it comes to family, it's not so black and white. Sometimes it's gray. Other times it's like that grainy static when the station loses signal. You don't choose the family you come from, but you choose the family your child gets is something I don't agree with. You can do everything right, then one day your partner turns on you. Did you choose an abusive person for your child as a parent or family member? No. What if you lose your partner and now your child is an orphan? Did you choose that to be their family? No. What if your in-laws come and take everything from you and leave you and your child on the street? Did you choose that family for your child? No. What if you fall sick and are unable to be present in your child's life? Did you choose that family for your child? No. When I talk about this, I'm speaking as a woman to women. Many times we are blamed for the choices that were just unfortunate circumstances. If your child's father is abusive or an addict, you're the one who chose that family for your child. If your in-laws take everything away from you, it's your fault. So I don't agree with that phrase. You can, however, choose what type of family you are to your child as per your capacity. Having mental health challenges doesn't make you a bad parent. Giving your child up for adoption doesn't make you a bad parent. Leaving your children with a partner abusing you doesn't make you a bad parent. However, planning to have a child and bringing the plan to life when you know there is absolutely nothing in the favor of the child, but instead your selfish choice to get something out of someone, that right there makes you a bad parent from the word go. So, do better if the child is here. No matter how hard it is, do better by that child. Grace. About giving grace. I find it to be a detrimental trait when conflated with forgiveness. Just because you choose to forgive someone doesn't mean they still get to have access to you. Just because you give someone grace doesn't mean you're letting them be liberal to abuse you. Many people's definition of grace and forgiveness is rooted in not putting themselves first. That's why cutting off family is difficult, because you believe on an inherent level that you need to stay for their survival, that something bad might happen to them the day you choose yourself, and that will be the divine's punishment to you. Also, because of what will people say? Do other people's opinions matter more than your own peace and sanity? What's the big deal if people tarnish your reputation because you choose yourself? Would you rather keep the public's opinion of you more than your own opinion of you? The day you learn to let go of societal constructs and take that risk on yourself is the day you will start living the peaceful life you never imagined was possible. I know none of this sounds nice, but it doesn't have to sound nice to be true. Sometimes bad things happen to direct us to good things. I don't fault the women on my maternal side about their life choices and how they're perpetuating generational curses, plus being creative in making new ones. That's as much grace as I can extend to them. That's because I personally chose through the stories of the women before me, and I could see where it all started going south. When you are raised to be supportive to be a man, to stand by him, as that's what makes a good woman, that's what you do even as an adult, regardless of who you have to bulldoze out of the way for you to fit the good woman mold. They grew up with self-defeating narratives and a lot of jealousy amongst each other, a lot of unhealthy competition, and a little to no self-awareness. If only they were taught about the dynamic nature of a woman, the dark side of a woman, they would have remembered who they are. They would have returned to themselves and seen the sacred nature of women being each other's best friends. They would not have gone through horrible situations. They would know what self-love is. There's a story about the skeleton woman. It's told in many cultures in the world. In my culture, it's the story of Anyango Nyalolwe. There are other versions, but this is the one I know. A fisherman went fishing and pulled a woman in his net. He took her home and married her, and she warned him to never be disrespectful. She made his wealth grow. He married another woman and started being violent. She then woke up one day and took the co-wife as well as every single thing she brought into his life, then walked back into the sea. He remained poor, no wife, no children. If the women before me knew that this story is about how powerful they are, that a man has to treat them well for blessings to come his way, they would have never once done the opposite, in which they beg a man because he thinks he is the source. Yes, yet it's they who are. As a woman, you are the river and you are the source. That's why water bodies are sacred. Why rain is sacred. Why we ask water bodies for permission before entering or fetching from them. If you never knew that, now you know. I recognize they were once little girls. I recognize they had dreams and aspirations. I recognize that they would have loved to, at the very least, experience the kind of life I have now. I also recognize that they have no place in my life, because my definition of grace has nothing to do with hurting myself. My definition of grace is about recognizing things for what they are, then extracting myself from the situation, because one benefit of studying history is learning from the mistakes of the past and doing better. What has come full circle for me is that I am free. I wonder what since the last full moon and episode has come full circle for you. Happy full moon in Aries.